Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. As-salatu was-salamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. Amma ba'd, fa'a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wa rafa'na laka dhikrak. Sadaqallahu al-azim wa sadaqa rasuluhu an-nabiyyul habiibul kareem. Wa nahnu ala dhalika la minash shahideen wash-shakireen walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. My Honorable Rahib Sahib, propagators of the true faith, my brothers and sisters in Islam and Tariqat, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. By the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the blessings of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we are once again honored and privileged to be sitting in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the remembrance of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and in the company of esteemed propagators of the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So far we have heard in many different languages and different revelations. We have heard everyone who has stood up with a microphone talking about Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and connecting themselves and us who we are present here today to the personality that is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We might think that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is only a person sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take a message to creation. They might be right in the technical aspect of this understanding, but we, the people who try to understand the spiritual world, try to reflect upon everything that we have heard from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we have to try to understand why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to creation. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala feel the need to send Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? And this story starts a long time ago when there was nothing and there was just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When He wished Azza wa Jalla to be recognized, to be identified and to be remembered, He created the nur of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He created the light of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And when He created the whole of creation, the things that you and I can see, feel, touch, absorb and destroy, create, He then sent Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in the form that you and I recognize as a human being. From the time that you and I are born, the first name that we hear is that of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The time that we pass from this world, the last name that we hear is that of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When they come and wake us up, the first personality we are questioned about is Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And when we go into eternity, everywhere where we look in the condition of panic and chaos and worry and anxiety, where we are worried about ourselves, and the great and the greater and the greatest are worried about themselves, and they say, look for somebody else, I'm not going to be good enough today. We will there also be dependent on Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And then in His glory, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will collect in one go, at one time, everyone and everything He has created, and we will all be in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will point towards Maqami Mahmud, will point to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He will remind us, when I first created you in the other world, I asked you to wait for this personality, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When you were living and breathing, I asked you to follow Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as a means to get to me. And now that you are here in front of me, now look at Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You were there because of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You are in the world because of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And you are here today because of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And you will enjoy eternity, i.e. a life of pleasure forever. Everything that you can think of, you will get just like this. because of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the reason why we sit in mahafils like this, we sit in gatherings like this. Bismillah. Azul, Bismillah. We welcome on behalf of the whole family of Brother Balal, Azul Kibla, Peer Sahib, Bismillah, Bismillah. Azul Kibla Peer Sahib, who grace this Mehfil with their presence. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant them increased ranks, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to benefit from their presence in our community. Ameen. As I was saying, the reason for these gatherings, and this gathering isn't anything new. We learn from the traditions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and our pious predecessors that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam once envisaged, saw his companions sitting exactly like we are sat here today. And he asks them, "Oh my beloved companions, what is it that you are doing here today? Why are you gathered here? What is it that you are busy with?" And they replied to him, "Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may our fathers and mothers be sacrificed upon you. We are sat here for the reason of praying to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are sat here to glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we are sat here to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us your personality." So we learn from the traditions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that we sit here to increase, to improve our connection to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to increase this connection. Say Ameen, because when you say Ameen, maybe the dua that I do will be accepted in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you observed what has been going on here today, Brother Balal invited you a few days ago. We came because Brother Balal invited us. But who is Brother Balal to us? Brother Balal is somebody who organizes the Mawlid gatherings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I didn't know Balal before he first invited me to a Mawlid of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And every other time that I have met him, he has been busy carrying on the mission of his father and his ancestors to increase their connection with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it is these mahafiz, it is these gatherings where we reconnect with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in the last couple of hours, what have you observed? What have you seen today? Today, you and I have been blessed with the presence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We saw two blessed hair of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam presented to us in a bowl. And I observed today grown old men with grey beards, white beards, shaking in the presence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I saw today grown men cry tears of joy and tears of happiness in the presence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I saw today hands raised in the court of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for elevation of our ranks and for forgiveness of our sins in the presence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when you observe these things in men who have lived good lives, in the presence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we shake. In the presence of one hair of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we shake because the awe and the majesty of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to absorb the light of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to continue to shine the light of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam within our families, within our communities, and within the wider world. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to continue to hold the gatherings of such mawlids of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept my presence here today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your presence here today. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us goodness in this world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us goodness in the next world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to become true believers and true followers of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.